I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I believe that as Europe collapses, when the European stock market crashes, the US only has a handful of weeks before it comes back on us. Because our two countries, Europe as a whole and the United States, are completely tied together economically. And what just happened with energy prices in Europe, absolutely staggering. Energy prices just went negative in France. And this is a sign of how bad off their economy is. Right now, everything in the United States is sort of faltering. It's shaking, right? Well, the Europe is already going through all kinds of economic problems. They have been drastically dropping rates, trying to stabilize their economy because things are bad, right? So they're trying to lower rates to spur growth. They are seeing social unrest like crazy. And now energy prices just went negative. Energy prices went negative in the US for a short bit of time during the COVID shutdowns. I was lucky enough to pick up some oil futures on that exact day when they're about negative $20, right? So check this story out. This will show you how bad it actually is. Where the mainstream media wants to shove a narrative down your throat and get you to spend more money because the powers that be want to see that money churning while they're getting out of the stock markets, while they're closing out their investments. They want you to be the lab rats, to go out and spend your money, spend your savings, right? This is bad. I don't know which way to cut it. It says here, and this is on the eve right now that we're doing this story on the Fed rate cut. And there's actually questions where they're going to do 25 or 50 basis points. I believe 25, even though there are a lot of financial institutions that are desperately needing a 50-point base cut, especially housing right now, or they're going to see more companies go under. But if the Fed lowers rates 50 basis points, that could send shockwaves through the market because they're going to say, whoa, wait a minute. Is it really that bad that you need to do 50? Because there are a lot of people in denial. So the story's out of Zero Hedge. It's entitled France's Electricity Prices Turn Negative Amid Poor Demand. And we're already seeing that in the US where there's poor demand in so many different sectors. But this is what it causes. French intraday power prices traded as low as negative $22.25 or 20 euros per megawatt hour on the EPEX spot exchange, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. It says so far this year, France's power demand has been undershooting projections by grid operator RTE as the French and European economies are seeing little, if any, growth. France, which derives about 70% of its electricity from nuclear energy, I love nuclear energy. It is the cleanest energy when it comes to how much energy it produces for how much waste it also produces. And that narrative, they don't want you to know that, okay? It's like hydrogen. Remember hydrogen fueled cars that George Bush was pushing? It was because a bunch of elitists went and invested in this technology, not because they believed in it, because they wanted to push a narrative so that all these companies and people would buy this stuff, and then they dump it, right? You don't see that anymore. Then it was solar and wind and all this stuff. They invest in it. The elite of this world run us like economic lab rats through the paces to get us to work as slaves so that they become richer. If you agree with that, type 1. And people need to understand that. If you think, no, the ninja is just a conspiracy theorist, type 2. But that is how it works. So I'd be typing 1 right now if I had a keyboard in front of me. All right, so it says here, European wholesale electricity markets have seen zero or negative power prices for the most hours on record this year amid soaring renewable energy generation and a mismatch between supply and demand for solar power. Negative pricing occurs when there is more electricity supply than demand, a scenario becoming more frequent as Europe continues its aggressive push towards renewable energy. The number of tradable hours in which power prices were zero or negative have jumped so far this year in the major wholesale power markets, including Germany, France, the Netherlands, Spain, Finland, and southern Sweden, per LSEG data. Zero or negative wholesale power prices have started to slow investment in capacity additions and make the case for the need for higher investment in energy storage, right? Because what are they going to do with all this? They're producing energy, nobody's buying it. to store. Nobody's buying contracts. They're going, hey, it's just wasted. Start shuttering plants or start slowing down the energy production. And this is interesting because just like a highway, when somebody slows down a little bit faster than the guy behind him anticipates, he has to slow down at a greater speed because of the reaction time, right? And then the guy behind him, same thing, but even worse and even worse. And before you know it, the first guy just slowed down, but a mile possibly, depending on the congestion of the traffic, right? The needs of the highway. Put this in energy terms. Thinking about this, now the guy a mile back has come to a stop. Even though, and the guy in the back's like, oh, there must be a bad accident. How many times has this happened to all of us? There must be a bad accident. The traffic stopped, and then you start slowly, speeding up. Before you know it, there's nothing. Like, what the heck happened? And it all came down to overreaction. That's it. That's exactly what happens in markets and in economies as well. And so what happens is when there's no demand for energy and everybody starts slowing down and companies start gating down their energy production and stuff, before you know it, all of a sudden, hey, it's springtime. We need energy. And they go, crap, we don't got enough of it. And what happens to the market? The stock exchanges spike the prices because they're all bidding it up because they want to grab those energy contracts so that they can secure enough energy to sell to their customers. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it just rolls right back up. Does that make sense to everybody? Say yes or no. Let me know. Because, and I film these live. If you're not watching this live, I do 95% of my videos live. I've never read a story before I read it with you because I, quite frankly, don't need teleprompters. And I think there are a lot of people that just really don't know how this stuff works. And I'm trying to make it so obvious. You know, so many people think that, hey, you've been warning about a crash for 3 years. Hell yeah, I have. It's called an economic cycle. What good is a warning if you don't have enough time to heed it, to do something with it? And that's been my prayer and my hope for every single one of you watching, that you've been getting ready for a downturn, because downturns actually always happen every 7 to 10 years. Some are small, some are really big. We are on a 100-year cycle. Remember, we're matching the last cycle 100 years ago. It started with a flu, the Spanish flu, which turned us into a depression in 1920, then brought us through a time of irrational exuberance when the Fed and the government printed a ton of money. Think about where we are. And then guess what? A subsequent crash. Oh, that's what happens. And that's what's coming. And so there's probably only 2 people out of 1,000 today. They're going to say some dumb comment like, well, it hasn't happened yet. You're just doom and gloom. You're a moron. I get it. The world needs morons. The good thing is, like I said, 99% of you aren't. You're amazing. No matter what your net worth is, no matter what kind of job you have, you're thinking ahead and you're getting ready for this, and you're absolutely going to crush it. We're going to have the coolest parties ever. Ninja Nation's going to absolutely dominate. It's going to be the first time in human history where a group of people around the world are prepared, they're not scared, and they're going to charge the mound. You know, it sounds funny. This is a total offshoot in this video, but you know what courage is? And I've contemplated this throughout my entire career as a firefighter, because people would say things, you know, oh, you're so brave and stuff. I'm like, I mean, I just love what I do. There's nothing scary when you train to go jump into a structure fire at most times, right? Because you've trained and you've seen enough of them. You're like, oh, yeah, it's just, you know, I'm just excited to be here and to, you know, put wet stuff on the hot stuff. And you know, people outside think you're so brave, but it's because of training and preparation. There's not anything there. But this is what true courage is. True courage is doing something that you're so scared about. And I'll be honest with you. I hate heights. I'm scared pissless of heights. I get near a cliff and I'm sorry if my sphincter gets so tight, like, oh gosh, get away. But when I was a firefighter, when somebody's life was on the line, I didn't think twice about, you know, climbing up a 75 or 105 foot stick with a ladder truck, you know, and having to bail off on the other side with a rope because somebody's life is at danger. And it was the weirdest thing. My body never reacted that way because of the training and things like that. But that's where the courage comes in. And there's been times where I've had those thoughts and it was scary, right? People at war, that's courage. Having to do what scares you but you're doing it for a greater reason, right? And so I want to take the opposite side of that and think during this next crash, when you've mentally prepared yourself, you prepared your finances, you prepared your family, and things go bad. It sounds funny, but in the investing world, when things are crashing, it takes a lot of cajones to pull the trigger and purchase an investment, or to dive into a sector that you haven't been into before. But with the proper amount of preparation, when preparation meets that opportunity, that's what people think is luck, but it's really not. And so, yeah, it's total tangent. Hope you got something out of that. But I'm excited to see every single one of you absolutely dominated in this, and I completely believe in you. Why? Because nobody believed in me except for my mom. And when she died, I had nobody to believe in me that I could make it financially and all my crazy ideas would succeed. And so I'm gonna be that person for you. I totally believe in you. And so no matter how big your dreams are, and I'd love you to put your dreams down here. I love reading what your goals are and your dreams are. We're going to make those a reality. And we're going to use a really bad scenario in life, an economic crash. So hope you guys got something out of this. Can't wait to see what the Fed does today. Put down below what you think they're going to do. 25 basis points, 50 basis points, or they're not going to do crap. That would be an interesting one too. Hope you got something out of this. The Economic Ninja is out.